Now we will understand what is Liskov substitution principle. It states that object of derived class should be able to replace object of base class without affecting the correctness of the program. That means we need to follow the base class contract every time if we are using in the derived class, okay? And we can avoid throwing any exception from the derived class which can hamper the behavior of the base class, okay? So just remember these three key concepts. So one is the base class, derived class, and method overloading. So if you see that in the base class, I have created one class, database connection, where I have implemented three methods. Like one is for connect, second one is the execute query, and for another one is for disconnect. So we have the different kind of database connection, right? Like we have the SQL database, we have the Oracle database, we have the Teradata. So for everything we have the different logic, right? So suppose if we are using this base class in any derived class, so suppose right side I have created one SQL Server connection class, okay? And here I am just using this, I'm inheriting this base class, database connection. So here if you see, we have created four methods. So one is the connect, the second one is the execute query, the third one is the disconnect, and the last one I have created additional method. So for connect, like I'll just implement the SQL Server connection logic. Here I'll just execute query, I'll just add the SQL Server query execution logic. In the disconnect, I'll just add the SQL Server disconnect logic, okay? But here if you see that I have additionally implemented one more method like additional method, and from there I'm just throwing one exception, new invalid operational exception. So this is breaking the Liskov substitution principle. It states that we should avoid throwing an exception from the derived class which is not the part of the base class, okay? So if you see in the next slide, so this is fine. Like, in database connection, we are using connect, execute query, and disconnect method. And in the SQL Server connection also, like, we have implemented the base class database connection. Here we are just using connection, execute query, and disconnect, right? And here I'll just implement the method. So this is following the Liskov substitution principle, okay? So now let's go to the code and then we will understand. So here you will see that this is my database connection class, and here I have implemented three methods, okay? So one is the connect, execute query, and disconnect. Same method what I'll use in the derived class. So for that I have created one SQL server connection, and here I'm using this database connection. I'm inheriting this, and after that you will see, right, I have just written the logic for the connect. I have created one method for the connect, execute query, disconnect, and here we can implement the our logic, right? What is the connection required for the SQL, okay? And if you see here, so this is the violating the principle of Liskov substitution, okay? So from here I'm just throwing this exception. So this is not a correct thing, right? So what we will do, we'll just delete this. Now it will follow the Liskov substitution principle, okay? And if you want to use this SQL Server connection in your program class, then what we will do, we'll just create one instance, and after that we'll just call all the methods, okay? I'll just delete this one because this is not required now, okay? So I hope you have understand the Liskov substitution principle.